Here are your New Year's resolutions that you chose at the beginning of this year. You want to make $100,000 by the end of the year. You want to make serious gains in the gym. You want to meditate every single day this year. But here is the harsh reality. Only about 9% of you will really succeed. And if that sounds harsh, good. You need to understand the harsh reality that most people that want things don't end up getting what they want. But there is a reason for this truth. The reason is that your goals are being attacked. Every single time you pick up your phone due to a ring, a buzz, or a notification of any sort, your brain is chasing a dopamine hit. But this dopamine hit wasn't put there by accident. This dopamine hit was designed to train your brain to respond to the stimulus. In this case, that is picking up your phone and getting sucked into an app. In other words, your mind is being controlled. Now, this sort of mind control is called classical conditioning. Let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, in the late 19th century, there lived a curious but brilliant scientist. He lived in Russia and his name was Ivan Pavlov. Pavlov, a physiologist, was fascinated by both the mind and the body. One day, while studying digestion in dogs, he made an intriguing observation. The dogs would start salivating not only when they tasted the food, but also when they saw the lab assistant who usually came to feed them. This sparked Pavlov's interest and he decided to investigate further. He began a series of experiments where he rang a little bell every time he fed the dogs. Remarkably, he found that after a while, the dogs would salivate just at the sound of the bell, even if no food was present. This discovery of conditioned reflexes, as Pavlov called it, opened up a new chapter in understanding human and animal behavior, showing how we learn by association. Now, you might be asking how that applies to you, your phone, and more importantly, that list of New Year's resolutions that I told you earlier were under attack. Well, the story continues. Continuing the story into our modern world, imagine a group of tech developers at a big company, inspired by Pavlov's experiments. They realized that just like Pavlov's dogs, humans can also be conditioned into using their smartphones. Every time a notification dings or the screen lights up, it's like the ringing of Pavlov's bell. It grabs our attention and often, without even thinking, we reach for our phones. These developers cleverly designed apps and notifications to induce a habit, a reflex, for us to constantly be checking our devices. Why, you ask? Well, every time we open an app or scroll through a feed, we see ads. These ads are the bread and butter for many tech companies. By keeping us hooked to our screens, they ensure a steady stream of ad revenue. So, in a way, we're not too different from Pavlov's dogs, responding to the bells and whistles of our modern digital world. As the story unfolds, there is a startling realization. In the digital age, we, the users, have become the product. Tech companies design their platforms not just for our entertainment or our convenience, but with a primary goal in mind: to keep us engaged long enough to show us ads. Advertisers pay these companies a significant amount of money for our attention, essentially buying our time that we spend on these apps and websites. Now, this is where the psychological concept of fire together, wire together comes into play. The principle of neuroplasticity means that if we perform an action more often, like checking our phones at the sound of a notification, the stronger the neural pathways in our brain become for that activity. Over time, this repeated behavior trains our brains to become more and more responsive to that stimuli. Every like, share, or new message notification reinforces that pathway, making it a deeply ingrained habit and turning it into an addiction. This growing dependency on digital stimuli has a profound impact on our ability to set and achieve goals, including those ambitious New Year's resolutions. Our attention, constantly diverted by our phones, an endless stream of content, becomes fragmented. The constant interruptions and dopamine-driven feedback loops from social media and other applications make it challenging for us to focus on long-term goals, the kinds of goals which require our sustained attention and continuous effort. As a result, our aspirations and resolutions, which again require dedication, planning, and uninterrupted focus, tend to fade into the background, overshadowed by the immediate gratification provided by our digital companions. The irony is stark. The more connected we are to our devices, the more disconnected we may become from our deeper goals and aspirations. In a modern tale where smartphones often feel like they have more control over us than we have over them, our story of liberation begins with a moment of realization. Just like a detective uncovering a hidden truth, we become aware of how tech companies cleverly keep us glued to our screens. Our first step in this journey has to be like decluttering a cluttered room. We must dive into the settings of our phones and turn off those relentless notifications, the unnecessary pings and buzzes that constantly demand our attention. It's a simple thing to do, but it feels like lifting a huge weight off our shoulders. Next, we must set boundaries with our phones, the way a gardener sets a fence around his precious garden. We have to create phone-free zones and times in our daily life. At the dinner table, during working hours, or before bed. These become our sanctuaries, free from digital interruptions so we can allow our brains to actually breathe and focus. We then must replace our habitual phone scrolling with activities that actually enrich us. Reading, engaging in hobbies, meditating, exercising. These activities aren't just distractions. They're moves towards a more happy and fulfilling life. As we consistently choose the real world over the digital one, we begin to find ourselves among the few who actually achieve their goals. It's not just about escaping the grip of our phones. It's about reclaiming our time and our aspirations. In this story, our victory lies in transforming ourselves from passive consumers of content to active creators of our own life story. We don't just break free from the digital trance. We embark on a path to make a meaningful impact on the vast journey of our lives. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Spencer with Must Become. Always remember that your potential is your obligation, and so what you can become, you must become.